All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Castles slash Metasource Games community call in a while. It has been a couple months since we've had a community call. I think it's probably been longer than that, actually, maybe since February or March. So I appreciate you all joining me. And so in this conversation, we're going to be talking about uh, Barron's. We're going to be talking about the recent economy updates that were made. We've been talking to the community and we have been getting some feedback, and we're still in the process of that. So we may be reaching out to some of you to just get some more feedback on how the game is going and what players want. So there is a lot of what players want. We do get a lot of suggestions, and we work on basically filtering what those suggestions are and getting to the heart of what the players really want. In regards to the minting fees, basically we added some minting fees to some of the production of the NFTs, and that is gonna stay the same. I know a lot of people keep thinking we're going to go back on that, but the thing is, it just wasn't sustainable. So we were looking at it and we were just like, there's no way we can keep paying these fees and actually keep the game up and running. Um, so. So that was a large, that's basically just want to say that. Now that being said, I am always trying to look at maybe where we can eliminate minting fees. The thing with a lot of these game updates is they just take time. Actually the smart contract stuff isn't necessarily really easy to do. Every time we want to update a smart contract, we have to do a lot more than just simple programming. We have to test it, and these things, perpetually go on the blockchain. And so it does take time to basically make any sort of changes. So I appreciate your patience while we, go through this process of this next phase of the Castles game. Fixing things that probably need to be fixed. And we'll talk about some more of those as we go on, and also adding new features. We're going to be talking about dungeons and the dungeon heroes and what's going to be coming in the future there. So I think one of the things people want to hear about the most is Barons. With Barons, we're going to be going back to the old rewards. It's still going to cost probably about 3 royal seals to recharge them. I think we still need to have one final conversation about those costs. That also means that we'll be reducing the minting fees probably to 1 wax or under for the Baron. Since it jumped up really high with the Baron for the minting fees because of all of the heroes that they were minting from the packs. But now that won't be the case, so we're going to adjust that. They do make farms though, and farms, get merged and they make additional lands, so it's probably going to be something like 1 wax. For the minting fee for that. Here's a topic I skipped over that I'd written down to talk about, which was the market impact on the game, meaning like just the global economy and the real world and its impact on the game. So many of you are probably sure or probably noticed that there's a lot of strange things going on with the real world economy right now. There's a lot of inflation, food going up quite a bit, and it's just kind of a mess out there. And there's also been a massive impact on crypto. Particularly, there was the recent collapse of FTX, and you guys probably heard about this. And Sam Bankman-Fried, and essentially, it looks like there might have been a lot of criminal activity inside of the way that FTX was being operated, and just either a criminal negligence or something like that that resulted in its collapse. I'm not going to go into my opinion on this, but I will talk about the impact that it's definitely had on all of us in the crypto market. And we can see, that's been happening with the value of all the cryptos, especially altcoins, going down, and that's resulted in a lot of people having less tokens to spend on things like our game. And we can kind of really see this happening everywhere. And the big part of this conversation is is more about what's happening in the global economy where inflation was running higher. That's part of what caused a lot of NFT assets to run up. And and so this is actually kind of designed by the United States federal government to be happening where there's this deflation. They're trying to cause deflation to happen, and it's causing this recession. And um, and so it's really designed like, companies like ours are supposed to be, spending less. They want people to be spending less. They want people to essentially be adjusting their spending, and that is supposed to cause prices to go down. So it is something that's basically being done to, all of us in the global economy, and this impact is just what it is. Now, on the plus side, we've spent the vast majority of our resources, pretty much all of them, on actually building the game. Josh and I didn't run off and like, to, vacations in Hawaii or anything like that. Like we took the money that was, paid for by the players into the game, and we reinvested that back into building the game. So, the dungeon artwork, the programming, we've had the great fortune of being partners with Victor Lopez and the Apex NFT Brazil team, and they have done an amazing job building the game. We could not have asked for better technical partners in building the game, and they've done a wondrous job. And all the artwork that we had done for the heroes, and I think it just really pays off. It all looks great, and it's taken us a little bit of time to fix the bugs for Dungeons, but it looks like, Dungeons are now, for the most part, operating close to bug free. It is a blockchain, sometimes some weird things happening, and we're keeping an eye on all those things. If you run into any trouble, please let us know and support. So yeah, that's why I meant to talk about that at the beginning of the call, because it's kind of a big conversation. But that being said, we're still building and still building the game, and we've noticed with the economic changes is that one of the big feedbacks we've been getting with Heroes is that it does cost a lot of time and resources to make Heroes, to play that whole game loop. We've had a lot of people comment with us about whether or not they think it's worth it, and some of the some larger players have just been accumulating a lot of heroes, and they're kind of questioning, like, how many common heroes do I really need? Do I need 100 or something? So we've kind of been looking at the way this has been going, and the answer that has been coming up for me is to essentially continue to extend dungeons, and so we're about to go into a Christmas vacation for the development team here. Uh, I'm still going to be working, but the programming team, they're going to be going on vacation, and in the meantime, I'm going to be continuing to prototype ideas for the next dungeons leg of the game, which is probably going to look like basically, you might not be spending a ton of resources to run those heroes, if any. I'm kind of playing with some ideas of whether or not you should actually spend resources to let your heroes do quests. I like the idea of not having them spend resources to do quests, but then that will eventually put less pressure on, say, royal seals and things, unless Dungeons is fun. So that's going to take me to my next point about dungeons, is that we do get a lot of information about dungeons, things people like, things people don't like. But what we can tell is that dungeons are still consuming more game resources than any mode that we've released yet. Like the land mode, as far as we can tell, and when it comes to basically resources produced and resources consumed, dungeons are still burning more game resources than anything we've done so far, which tells me that people are actually enjoying making heroes and customizing their heroes. We just need to continue extending features that are fun, for those modes. So there are some other things on our list to talk about, which is, we have carpenters, we have lumberjacks, Those particular are seeing less use because of the increase in the land cost, the basically the cost to produce land. So that has augmented their use. So we're looking at making them useful. Uh, I have a couple of different ideas of how to do this, so I'm not going to go into them here because I don't want to basically make things too ambiguous. But we're looking at it. We're looking at what we can do with lumberjacks and carpenters, as well as miners. And with the blacksmith guild, a lot of people say they're not using the blacksmith guild. It makes sense because the cost to make metal is tied to the land game, and so as land game values have gone up, that's created a disproportionate, essentially, economic value for using the blacksmith guild. So we're going to be looking at adjusting that as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be happening before Christmas vacation. I'd like it to, but it's still something that we need to discuss with the team. So when it comes to the crafters and like the blacksmith guild, we're seeing these second and third order effects that we're not totally, that weren't totally we weren't totally aware of until we were seeing it happen. I mean, I had some guess that if we raised the economic value of crafting lands to be more, that it would have second, third order effects. One might be the blacksmith guild, but it wasn't until we actually see it happening that we can actually verify that, oh, so that does impact that in that way. And then we have to modify. So again, this is all really new stuff. Like there are very few people who have made games like these, and that they are kind of slow to adjust just because of the technology, the way it operates. It does take us time to adjust things, and so I appreciate your patience as we do those things. Um, so uh, going to PvP, we were planning to release a PvP mode. Josh and I really liked the mode, and when we presented it to the community, it was kind of met with like a lukewarm. People generally seem to not be interested in the PvP as we announced it. We held a sell. It also had kind of a lukewarm reception. And so we're pivoting on the PvP. We're not going to do it the way that we proposed right now because it seems like that is not what people are looking for, which was essentially kind of like was kind of like a poker-fied version of castles. And Josh and I liked it, but we're listening to you guys. So what that means is that we did have a drop with the potions, and so that means that we're going to be looking at giving potions will either be able to get traded in for something else or they'll be used for something else. I'm having different ideas about how to do that. It's something that probably won't be done until the start of next year. So I appreciate your patience as we adjust those things. So that means that the arena drop is probably not going to happen or not happen in that particular way. Again, we're sort of at this stage where we're looking at everything that's been working about the game, everything that's not been working about the game. I would say the thing that's definitely working the most is that people actually do like to build the heroes. They like to play with the heroes. That has resulted in, the burning of royal seals. And so for me, the plan is to continue, making that hero portion fun. Get to build these heroes and then use them for things. And so I'm still going to go around and get a lot of community feedback on what people want. Now, the most challenging thing that we deal with the game is like the expectation of profit, or we could also just call it in a more logistical manner. It's more about the valuation of the value of an asset. A good example being, we've always talked about royal seals being the most important asset in the game. and that making castles the most important asset in the game. I know someone in the chat the other day said barons are the most important asset in the game. I said they're one of the scarcest because they have a fixed supply, but it's always been castles that we have said, the royal seals, that would be very important. And so we're looking at the second and third order effects of having that be the thing. And I do like the way that mechanically works, but we do see that there are things that we need to consider when we, increase the value of lands, the way, or essentially reduce the, increase the scarcity of lands, the impact that's had on things like the carpenters and the lumberjacks and the blacksmith guild. So, these are things that we're understanding better and taking into consideration. And so at the end of the day, I think the important thing is to keep the game playable, keep it so that it's fun, give the assets use cases, and so if people are enjoying the game, that's the important thing. And I think right now, even though dungeons might not be perfect, I do think the process of killing monsters and making heroes is fun. We just have to continue to increase the value proposition of having a hero. So taking them out on quests, building bases, battling other people, what order those things come in. We're still evaluating, and I'm in this development phase, so I'm taking all this feedback and looking at the game roadmap and building a new one, or essentially extending the roadmap from where we are. We used to have a roadmap for the game, and it got us to this point, and now we're entering the next leg. Yeah, so that's everything that I had written down for my notes to discuss. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to people who want to give any feedback, any comments. We're open to hearing what people have to say, and we are recording this just so we plan to upload it to YouTube. So if for some reason you don't want to be, your voice publicly on YouTube, you probably don't want to raise your hand. But so now you guys know, and we'll go ahead and open it up for anybody who has any questions or comments. I think you can go ahead and raise your hand. And I think, oh, here we go. We got Cryptospace Commander. Gonna invite you to the stage. Here we go. Hello, CSC, as I sometimes call you. How you doing?
Do good, Robert. Good to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise, I think we've maybe chatted before, probably not too long, right? Not much.
Yeah, not much at all.
Yeah, well,
I'm usually busy working the night shift and sleeping during the day. This is one of the rare times I'm actually awake during the day.
okay, yeah, I do the same thing. I used to have a night shift, so I know. But thank you for being a moderator in our Discord. And what did you want to talk about?
What are your plans to increase the scarcity? Are you still happy with your limits you got set on your heroes and other things till they double or whatever changes are after that?
Are you talking about heroes?
Yes.
Yeah, the plan is still to add a layer of scarcity to the heroes. Um, we're I think currently we don't need to, like, right at this moment. There aren't a lot of heroes being I would say there's actually not a lot of players per hero being played right now. And I think that probably has more to do with the market right now than it actually really has to do with our game, which might be, underestimating the impact of our game mode and the way it works. But, when I look at it, when we create new game modes for the heroes, the point of this will be to create a great value proposition for playing heroes. So while there might be like a somewhat small player base playing dungeons right now, a lot of it's because if you want to be self-sustainable, you need a castle. And right now, people are really not letting their castles go. Like you guys do set the market. So some assets that are expensive, like a castle is expensive, is because there are people who value a castle and want to be holding them to play with them. Um, uh, so so when it comes to the scarcity, I still want more heroes out in the wild. I'm still kind of evaluating. I think right now it's between 500 to 600, so like 550 common heroes each right now. To me, that seems like a pretty good number. I mean, if you do like let's just say 600, uh, if you have if you have a player and they want to have three common heroes, that's about 600 players. It's only enough heroes for 600 players. So we've seen before that the we had about 600, 700 players close to before some of our bigger updates who just held lands. And so I think if we add another layer of value proposition where you get to play heroes and do things that don't involve royal seals, we'll actually see an increased demand for the heroes. So I'm not planning on doing any scarcity for them just at the moment, and we haven't officially released any numbers for hero scarcity. But I think it's not quite as bad as some people feel. I think the thing is like right now to build a hero, you need a castle, and people are not letting go of castles for very cheap. I mean, right now there's actually not many assets that are actually even selling for like 64 or $50 right now on wax, really, with any kind of liquidity. When I look at the data, people are still holding on to their castles. They're still using royal seals. But there is a small player base playing dungeons. But once we add new use cases for heroes, I think that number is going to go back up again. It's all about the value proposition, though. Are do people? We need to make it fun and we need to make it rewarding to people who want to play dungeons. And if you look at the epic heroes, there's only about 12 each of the epic heroes right now. So that's not much. I think it's really the low player base of dungeons right now because it's so royal seal heavy. That is kind of resulting in a lot of people having heroes and a lot of fragments not being crafted because basically, like, when you have a hero, you need to pay more royal seals to keep them at maximum efficiency. And it might look kind of painful right now for someone who's like, gosh, look at all the royal seals I have to consume. But it is a game. It's meant to be played. And when we create these new dungeon modes, I think it's going to make way more sense to be crafting these to people because they're going to be like, oh, so there are going to be people who want to use heroes to go play some other mode. And this is why when I'm evaluating the next leg of the game, I'm thinking we're probably going to essentially create a new stage where royal seals are not used or essentially you're not paying an asset from the previous game mode to be able to play like with questing and stuff like that. So in the next leg, maybe there will be other things like sure, maybe we'll have royal seals and or some derivative like Msource, Finewood, and all that used by heroes in the next stage of the game, but it won't be a requirement. Kind of like lands. You can claim Msource and it doesn't cost you anything, right? It just, all you have to do is spend Msource. We may do something very similar where heroes kind of basically are able to claim a base resource without having to spend a resource from the rest of the game. And I think this will increase the value proposition. And the other big thing is we want it to be fun. So this is where it takes time to develop because we want to make sure that it doesn't just feel like another clicker extension, that you're actually going somewhere with it where your choices matter. And that's why I need a little bit more time to think about that. But I think for right now, the scarcity is okay. Like I'm kind of fine having like 1,000 common heroes in the ecosystem by the time we launch the next game mode. But do I stick to that or do we increase it over time? We'll have to see. It's still something I'm evaluating, but I'm not planning to any in the short term. And once the team goes on vacation, you're going to at least have until that time before any kind of scarcity for the heroes gets made. But I think most likely we will let you guys know. We'll give you some kind of heads up before we add any scarcity to the heroes.
Well, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
like the news.
What's that?
I'm always excited to see what's next to come from you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. Me too. Do you have any other questions? We only have one other request to speak right now. So,
I just want to let people know that I've enjoyed the changes you made so far, and I've enjoyed the changes you've made from the changes. You guys are really adaptable.
I appreciate your support, Crypto Space Commander, especially as a moderator. You guys help us out a lot. If I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping or something like that. It's nice to have you guys' support so that I don't have to do absolutely everything in the chat these days.
Well, thank you, Robert. It's been great talking to you.
Likewise, yes. See you. Talk to you soon. All right. We're still taking questions. Cameron Lambert, Cam Lam here, will be next. Even if it's criticisms, I'm not going to kick you out unless you're toxic. But I'm open to hearing, feedback and criticism as well. Things you think we're doing right or doing wrong. You don't have to come up here and feel like you have to only shower us with praise. Only, right? We like honest conversations here. All right, so let's go ahead and invite Cameron Lambert onto the stage.
Hello, hello.
Hey there, Cameron. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, Robert. Thanks for letting me step up and just have a little bit of a discussion with you. Yeah, one thing that was on my mind, just some ideas that I was talking with a couple of the other guys about was when you first mentioned in that when you text in the community chat about more use case for heroes. The first thing I thought to myself was dungeons is the main part of heroes and should of course offer the best rewards. And then you mentioned something about some ideas you're throwing around in your head about like questing and stuff. And the ideas I had were, of course, with dungeons being the main thing, the battles, the monsters, all that should of course provide the best amount of rewards. But like you said, with bigger players, they're getting all these common and uncommon heroes, and they're not really to some extent, affording to be able to use them because they already have their setup, and of course they're going to have to buy more castles to do that. And so what my thoughts were, could it be something with hero questing where it's almost like quests have maybe like a minimal reward but a minimal use? So of course, let's say you have 3 rares and 3 uncommons that you're running through dungeons on a regular basis, and then you blend another uncommon, and you don't really have the resources to be able to run it without having to buy a bunch every day. So there's a quest that's live, and it's you basically stake your hero, kind of like with land packs. You craft a land pack, you wait 3 days, you get a reward. Maybe you stake that hero for 3 days and you get, maybe I would say, like a minimal amount of rewards, not something like you're getting epic hero fragments from it, but you're getting, something, whether it be, like a piece of equipment that's cheap, or, maybe even something else. I don't have the exact idea on what the rewards should be, but they should definitely be a lot less than what you're going to get if you're having your dungeon heroes running. So it's just a thought of like, you could have daily quests or weekly quests or something, and it's like, hey, if I have all these extra ones and I don't want to sell them, well, hey, I'll throw them on a quest to go run for 3 days, and then it comes back and it gives me kind of like a small portion of rewards. That way they're just not like sitting on the shelf.
That what's not sitting on the shelf? The extra here's what people can't run. Is what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Following up on the conversation I had earlier, just a moment ago with CSC, is that the most likely the next uh, dungeon feature or like hero feature. Actually, I probably shouldn't call it a dungeon feature. It's probably going to be like heroes. So it'll be like a new lane. Because it's really not fair. Like, let's say if we had heroes and then those heroes go do questing, and let's just say theoretically it doesn't cost anything that's a derivative of a royal seal to go on that quest, and if you still have a chance to get new heroes or new equipment, that's kind of not fair to all the people who consumed royal seals and stuff beforehand. So Um, so most likely the rewards for the next Heroes expansion will be much different from the rewards from the dungeon expansion, because the dungeon's kind of its own thing. It's if you want to kind of look at a correlation that we already have, it is the land game where we had barons created lands, and then those lands were able to create castles. So that is kind of similar to the loop there when it comes to creating heroes. Um, and now the thing was that we eventually then gave the castle royal seals all these use cases for crafters, making new lands, and things like that. But as we can see, that eventually kind of tapers, off. Eventually, we have to create scarcity inside of the land game for it to make sense, and that has impacts. So what's going to make the new heroes different is that they're going to probably collect new kinds of resources to get new kinds of things. So the hero expansion will probably be based on creating new kinds of assets and not creating the previous assets that already exist in the game, because it kind of goes against the scarcity concept that we have. If you now it kind of reminds me something that I didn't talk about. That I forgot to put in my notes of things to talk about, but I guess I talk about it in a moment. But does that make sense? Us going in and not, not making it so that you can get rewards for cheap, basically, in the hero
Yeah, yeah,
expansion
yeah.
that you had to pay a lot of royal sales for before, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right, right. No, I like that idea. So just a follow-up question on that. So are you saying one thing that just popped in my mind, are you saying like when you're creating these new lanes for these heroes, are these here are the things like to earn these new assets that you're speaking of, will that be for heroes that you aren't using for dungeons, or will you be able to simultaneously use your dungeons heroes to earn these assets and then also you know basically yeah, that's basically what I was asking. Or is it simply going to be like, hey, if you haven't staked those heroes, you can stake them into this new lane to earn these new assets?
You should be able to use them simultaneously. So,
Okay.
so like while you're doing questing, it's probably not going to use any stamina. And the point there is to increase the use, or rather say the affordability of using a hero for the new mode. Because if everything just costs royal seal to do with the heroes, we're going to basically kind of see the same pattern that we've been seeing, that people will then start to be like, okay, well then should I use my royal seals to do this new thing, or should I use my royal seals to continue making heroes? So the plan is to continue to create the incentives for creating new heroes, and then continue to increase the scarcity of heroes, meanwhile giving the heroes a new expansion where they can play and quest and build bases and compete against each other. And so what that looks like, I'm still evaluating. You know, uh, I do like the ideas of like the wax rewards, like we're doing right now for the dungeons. So it's going to end, I think, uh, like very early January. I forget the exact date, but during that day we give away a bunch of these prizes, and one of them is a wax reward. We think the wax reward is really great, and so we may do something, but it's probably a little more even, so it just doesn't go to the person who consumed the most amount of resources to play. But there are more winners of those wax rewards. It's probably still too early for me to be talking about that. I'm just throwing those ideas out there, but I like that. It's worked for a lot of games. It's working for us, I think, for dungeons, having the dungeon event. It works for some other games like Wombat, and I think the wax rewards are actually really good rewards to be giving people.
Yeah, no, no, that definitely helped answer a lot of questions, man. I do like the fact that, of course, creating like a lot of more the scarcity with the heroes. And in my mind, if I'm thinking a new player's coming in, well, if a new player's coming in, they don't have like a huge amount to invest. Well, hey, you can go get a hero, start doing these other more smaller quest things. You don't have to go buy a castle and seals and all this stuff. Start here, build up, and then you'll fall in love with the game. And then obviously, well, here's the next step. If you really want to jump into it, come and use all these other avenues, go in dungeons, buy castles, recharge things, get some tomes. And so I really kind of like that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Like heroes are actually a lot of fun to build. They're just very costly to build right now and costly to use. So I think, when I think people would still buy these things even at $1 just to like kind of throw them together and look at them. But I think, the use case and the demand for them will be much higher once you can actually have a whole game mode that they can play, where it's kind of, if you imagine we took like the lands, like the farms and those other things, and we gave them like whole other use cases. The difference between farms and the heroes is that we spent very large amount of resources to make it so you could build these cool looking heroes, whereas a land is just a land, right? But we spent a lot of time and resources making heroes cool. And so giving those heroes use cases where they don't cost a lot of royal seals, we think is going to create a lot more hype around heroes. So I'm right now concocting like the perfect formula for making the heroes really exciting for new players to come and play with, and without having to feel like they have to continue, um, uh, you know, uh, paying people at the other end of the game who own castles in order to play. But they'll still have to buy a hero from them. If those are the players that are making heroes, they still have to eventually get those heroes from people who are actually making them. But I'm pretty excited for this.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Robert. I appreciate you taking my questions, man, providing a lot of insight, man. Thank you.
You're welcome, Cameron Lambert. Thank you. I know I say your whole name is because you're on the Twitch streams all the time.
Yeah, you can't change your Twitter name once you make it. Like I can't change. Like I tried to go in and change like the username to just do like Camlam, but it won't let me. So I stick with the full name and call it a day.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, thank you, sir. I look forward to seeing you in chat and in the Twitch streams.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. So we got Crypto Space Commander is coming up again. We got so I'll be able to talk for about the next 7, is it 10? Wait, 20, yeah, 22 minutes. I got another 22 minutes and that'll be my hard stop. But hey there, CSE, good to see you again.
Good to see you. I just had a question about the sills the game sells for $5. Do you have any plans to update that or change that in any ways?
Oh, the Royal Seals. No, we don't. I mean, really don't. We're not planning to like undercut the players, or something, like make it so that a Royal Seal costs like 25 cents or something. We're not about that. Um, so, uh, I mean, is that like the question there?
Like, is it gonna, yeah, basically, I was just wondering if there's gonna be a price change in the future or any way to adjust it so that that can be more useful, kind of like the Royal Courthouse wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. The thing is that the market is still really small for these games. And we're also a game that is played by real players, which is something different from a lot of what these other games do. We do think we probably have some bots playing the free-to-play mode, but we did our best to mitigate their impact on the game economy. But the but a lot of these other games are actually, I look at them, right? I go and I play them. I played Wombat the other day. I played Realm, and I was just like, there's no way that this game just isn't going to be riddled with bots, both of them. Um,
Oh,
and that just takes value away from the actual players. Our game isn't, designed that way. Our game is designed so that it's designed for real people, so that way, because it's not sustainable. It really
I
isn't.
love that bot resistance your game has.
What's that? Oh, you love the what resistance? Bot resistance?
Yeah, the bot resistance.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, sure, like people can like, set up scripts or clickers to basically, click their barons every day at the same time. But, it's going to be basically the same as like a person who sets their alarm every day, right? So, and that's really the way it's designed is because it's not sustainable when you have bots basically eating away at the average player. And so, So how did I get into this? Oh, it was because uh, theoretically, with a large player base, something like the Royal Seals at $5 actually works. So, the value of a Royal Seal is all dependent on the volume of players playing and the volume of players who have demand for Royal Seals. And we're a very strong game. We're like, top, we were a top 20 crypto game for a while. I think we're like top 30 now. So there's actually, people playing our game. There's people playing our game, enjoying it. But we're still like really early days, and crypto is a really bad rap right now. There's not a
So many
lot of
rug
new
pulls
people
just in the
coming.
wax community. It's really hurt the wax gaming.
Yeah. And the other thing is, a lot of them are just being grifted to death. If you look at if you look at so many of these other games, once they get botted, any game, if you look at it and you're like, oh, could a bot basically go and set this up to click a lot? And would that have a big impact on the game economy? If the answer is yes, that game is eventually going to get, kind of grifted to death, unless they
Oh,
change. Um, and, uh, and so that's just like the reality, which is why we stay away from that, and we're working on building sustainable systems. That being said, if we're not earning, if we're not earning from players because there's no player growth, there's no reason for us to overcharge our players for playing. You know what I mean? Or undercut them on the market, because that's going to be even less sustainable. So it's all about the value proposition. We're really trying to be fair with the value proposition. Is why we have people paying minting fees for most of the mints in the game, because it was just the most fair thing to do. If you want to play the game and that you're okay with paying that tiny little mint fee, which I added up, and sometimes it's not much. There aren't many people who are paying a whole lot every day to play the game. In
the
terms
mint
of
fees haven't
wax.
stopped me from playing.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, for most players, it's almost negligent. And but I understand there've been some people in the game recently, and I think a lot of it also has to do with uncertainty in the market, and crypto having a bad rap. It's kind of a rough time out there for a lot of people. But that being said, we really work hard to make the best value proposition for the game. So we appreciate everybody who supported us on our last two drops, which was the Baron drop, the Baron bundle drop, and the Tome bundle drop, and the potion sell as well. And so what's important is that we continue growing the game, continue growing the brand, and creating better value propositions for the game. It might seem really rough, but we're still super early. We're still super early. I think we're probably close to the size of a game like Splinterlands was before Splinterlands got big during the big bull run. So a game like us doing well is partly about positioning, and so yeah, the Royal Seals will probably stay where they're at for a while until the game continues to grow, and that's just going to kind of be its own journey.
Awesome. Thanks for the information. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, CSA. So, are there any more questions, comments, feedback, anything surprising you liked, didn't like? I think I got a lot of people talking in community chat, but I guess maybe they don't want to. Oh, Barontrosity says, can we bring back the page where we see how much M-Source we can earn from the Metasource card? I don't think that is down. I'm pretty sure that is. Um, yeah, even I can't find it. I Yeah, I don't think that game is that portion is intended to be taken down. I will talk to Victor about that. That was intended to at least be accessible. I'm surprised nobody's mentioned it that I've seen until now. other comment. I don't know. A lot of people talking in the chat, but it's kind of hard for me to read the chat and talking here at the same time. So the dragon says, looks like he's talking about the FUD in the market, and he says, please don't take me wrong, Castles NFT is the best game I've invested in. Thank you all for it. I've been blessed. Rest others just took my money and went nowhere. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, the dragon. I do. It'd be easier if you came in and talked to Eddie. I'm not sure. You said, can we work on the scarcity for all of the tokens, is what Eddie says. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, we worked on the scarcity for royal seals, and those all have second, third order effects. So it's it's kind of a big thing. There are other things. The things high on my priority list basically um, are extending heroes for the hero expansion and essentially give them use cases that are outside the current existing game loop, and then look at the crafters and evaluate giving them use cases. We want people to be playing the game. Some token scarcity is good, but it's the use cases of those tokens and the gameplay that is important that we really look at. So yeah, I mean, if no one else is available to wants to come up and raise their hand, I'm not sure I can keep answering questions in community chat. It's not very YouTube friendly either. That's the only thing. All right, guys, looks like we are winding down on the community call. And yeah, we appreciate you guys and supporting us. And shout out to Josh, who has helped build the game economy, and my business partner and my other business partner, Victor Lopez, who has been building smart contracts and working with Apex NFT team to build the game out. They are amazing. And to you guys, we really appreciate you guys, and keep letting us know what you like or what you don't like about how the game is going, and it really matters to us and helps us inform how to take the game next and in what direction. And oh, that reminds me, Victor is actually planning to launch a new feature next week. Hopefully it happens next week, but he does want to add a kind of like a minor hero. It'll be like the first hero expansion feature since we've launched Dungeons, and it'll just be kind of like a nice little thing that we're going to be doing. And gosh, there was one other thing that I had on my list of things to talk about, and I didn't write it down. Oh, now I remember. We're also talking about the possibility of like a battle pass. So when you use your heroes, you get points, and then you will get a reward, and then you can also get the battle pass, and that will give you more rewards. That should be pretty juicy actually, because you are paying some wax to get those rewards as a battle pass for doing your progress. So yeah, those are the last two little things I wanted to talk about. And thank you guys. Have an awesome Saturday, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.